and then we'll go from there. I'm going to share my screen here, and Joseph, anytime you're ready, we can go ahead and share and get it going. All right, can you guys see the screen okay, first of all?
Did it give you all a message that recording was in process?
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Perfect. All right. So I'm going to go relatively fast when it comes to looking at the components for the rubrics. But before we do anything in the actual slide deck, I want to go over some resources that a lot of people didn't use last time. And I don't know, maybe it's my fault I didn't go over it well enough, or you guys didn't explore in the Google Doc, but I found for those who used it, it was a little bit easier. So in the Cal APA 2 file I have, you'll see that there's the slide deck, and there's some other resources. I would really like you guys to check out a couple things. One is this document here. It's the Cal APA tools. When you click on this, if you go to this Cal APA Cycle 2 prompt guide and you click on it, it's going to make you make a copy so you don't wreck the original file, because somebody already last time wrote in my templates. But this will give you like guiding questions for each individual prompt. So I strongly suggest, if you're not sure you're answering the question correctly, or you need a little bit of clarity, this goes over every prompt for every question in CalAPA. Okay. So this is here for your resource. Usually when people ask me questions, am I answering the question right? I usually follow up with these questions. Okay. So just be aware that that resource is available to you. So just know that you have access to that. So that, and then there's a guide here. It says cycle 2 step 3 video. This is not going to be turned in, but I made this for you guys. It's a template I made that'll help you organize for your videos, and I'll explain that as we go, but you don't turn this template in. It's just a template that I made for you. So I put it in here, but I also put it under the templates here because you'll probably need it. You'll look for it there as well. So I tried to be a little proactive and put it in both. As always, under the templates, I put them both in PDF and Word form. So remember, when you do turn in the templates, use the ones from the website, but I do have them here for you to do drafts, and or if you share them with me, through Google Docs for me to take a look at, they're there for you as well. All right, so that's the resources. There's a planning guide here, and there's also, I think I put this prompt support thing also in a PDF for you. So there's some redundancy there, just so you guys know. Okay. There's also a folder here with Cal APA 2 samples, including videos, because you're going to have to submit a couple videos for this one. So please feel free to use these samples if you want, so you can at least see kind of what it looks like. Okay. Before we move forward, are there any questions on resources, not on anything else other than, does everybody have access to the Google Doc? Okay. And okay. All right. If need,
I have one question.
yes.
When you say use the template online, or I actually just used the template for this last cycle, and I just created a PDF and uploaded it.
Yeah, you can, but
good.
Again, sometimes like they have versions, and the versions usually match, but sometimes they may update a version, a 0.5 or something else. So I just tell people, make sure the templates are the exact same. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just to double check. And again, it's a technical thing, but I've seen some technicalities go weird on these, and so I would just, these templates, I work really hard to make sure I update everything the best I can. But sometimes I want to make sure, so I would double check if it was me turning it in, I was putting down a chunk of cash, I'd double check.
Thank you so much. I'm glad it matched.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, let's kind of get into the meat of it, and then we'll go from there. Let's see here. All right. So here's the slide deck. And again, there's a lot of slides in here, and you have access to this. What I don't want you to do, or what I'm not going to do, is read it word for word. This is meant to be a resource and a presentation. and it's more of a resource than a presentation, right? And so you have it. Remember, this is 120 or 15 slides or something like that. And the purpose of the second part is all the technical aspects on how to annotate and upload videos, but I don't go over the technical aspects because I don't have the ability to go in and do that for you or see it. You do, because I can't register, as you. So, but it's all there. Our tech does a really good job with putting that part together. All right. So the one thing I do want you to be aware of is it's also in the resources, and but there's this Cal APA performance guide. I don't know how familiar you are with this document, but it's great because it lets you know for each cycle what you need. Okay, so there's on the PowerPoint, that is a hot link. You can just click on that and it'll take you to the guide. So if there's any questions you have, this will at a simple level be able to help answer those questions for you. All right, so it kind of tells you what you need to do. Here's cycle 2. Here's what step 1, 2, 3, and it tells you what evidence you need to submit and everything else. So this is a good document to be familiar with, okay, and use it as a reference. All right, so submission date for this is February 17th. I'm not supposed to tell you this, but obviously the due date of that is because they want you to have the score back by a certain time. The turnaround is really quick, and I would rather you do it correctly than worry about getting it in right on that date. But I do want you to understand, the longer it takes you to turn it in, the longer it takes you to get your score, right? And I have to move at the pace of the program. So you might be still working on 2 and I'm presenting 3. So just understand that. The prescription is to get it done by February 17th, but and hopefully you will be able to, but it may not be feasible depending, because you're going to have to facilitate community of practice. All right, so let's go over it. Here's the banquet tables. Again, it's going to be the same format as last time. You're going to have to do 4 cycles: investigate, plan, act, and reflect. And each one of them I'll go through as we move forward. So this one, what you're really going to do is be co-facilitating. And when I may say co-facilitating, what I really mean is you're going to facilitate. Basically, you're going to facilitate a community of practice. You may call them a PLC. You may call them a grade level team. You may call it a department team. But basically, it's a team that you're going to work with, that you guys do the same work. So if you're elementary, it might be a grade level team. If you're in high school or secondary, it might be your social studies group. It might be your English language arts. It might be EL. It might be special ed. If you're a counselor or anything else, it might be something to do with A through G or whatever it might be. Okay. And so you're going to have to communicate or facilitate a community of practice. And with that, you're going to have to determine an evidence-based strategy to use for a problem of practice. Now, let me be clear on this. You can use the same problem of practice you used for Cal APA 1, but you do not have to. And here's what I want you to understand about that. The reason you don't have to is you may have picked something for Cal APA 1 that you have no locus of control over. And what I mean by that is I'm a history teacher by trade, right? Before I became an administrator, I was a history teacher. There's no way that I would have done something on English language arts and run a community of practice around that, because I have no control over that. Does that make sense? Or I'm not going to do something on suspensions because I don't suspend kids at that point, right? So if you're a counselor, you might want to talk about social emotional learning or something like that. But keep in mind locus of control. I'm going to venture out and say here, all of you are already probably a member of at least 1 or 2 teams, right? You might be on a PBIS team, a behavior team, you're in a department. If you're doing work in there already, please go ahead and do that. Okay. I'm not asking you to reinvent the wheel. I'm not asking you to do anything else. You could use your stuff from Cal APA 1 as your problem of practice, but you do not have to. They are not directly connected. Okay. Everybody good with that? Okay. I want to make sure I'm clear. So with that, you're going to have to jointly determine a problem of practice and then an evidence-based strategy to address that practice. So they're gonna implement that whatever strategy it is, and you guys are going to monitor it, and then you're going to collaboratively lead some professional learning to your community of practice around maybe what that strategy is, and then you're going to reflect on it. And I know it doesn't make sense now, but it will as we go through. I promise you. So kind of some of the key vocabulary here, and again, I'm not going to go over all of this, but keep in mind, they're always talking about equity, right? Whenever we do Cal APA, they want to make sure that we have equitable outcomes for all students. So keep that in there in your mind, because that's the goal, right? And then again, what we really want to do is have you facilitate. So I'm not going to get caught up in the weeds of the vocabulary, but again, some of this I'm bound to have because the Sacramento County Office of Ed who we work with has the legalese of making us put everything in here. Again, you're going to run a community of practice. When they talk about high functioning teams, it's really important that you're going to have to define some things in your videos and annotate. So you're going to have norms. You're going to have to make sure you have a culture of discourse and maintain focus and communicate and so forth. So, and there's some places in the video you're going to have to do some specific things to show that you facilitate those, or you can facilitate. You will have a problem of practice again, and that can be based on data you already know about or data that you've uncovered in Cal APA 1. And then there's a problem statement that you're going to have to be, which is clear and concise. What I would tell you right now is when it comes time to write your problem statement, I would write it and then send it to me and say, hey, Ross, can you look at my problem statement? Because what happens is if you don't write this correctly, then they're going to look at it and go, okay, wait a minute. You're running your community of practice around something, but it doesn't match your problem statement. Right. And so last year, I know this sounds a bit odd. There was 1 or 2 students who wanted to do one on attendance. And I was like, do you have the locus of control to write a problem statement on attendance during online learning? Right. It doesn't make sense really. So again, you don't have to. I'm not going to say, if you don't do it, you can't turn it in without my approval. And certainly a lot of you are good enough. You don't need my help. But if you do, if you're going to turn one thing into me to have a look before you move forward, show me your problem statement. Okay. For those of you who have emailed me or sent things my way, I either respond right away, looks good, go forward with it. Yeah, but you might want to change this, or I'll put, let's talk. Okay. Which isn't bad. Let's talk means let's flesh it out and make sure I understand what you're trying to do so we can get that right. Okay. And the other piece that we'll talk about is annotations, because you're going to have to use software inside there. You're going to have to upload a couple videos and you're going to have to annotate some specific things that they're looking for during the course of the video. So let's talk about step 1, which is investigate. And again, I'm going to go through this relatively quickly and then I'll take questions. But I also want you to understand the rubrics and everything are in here, but I'm not going to go over them ad nauseum. What I do want you to understand is based on your school data, the vision, mission, the goals, all the things you looked at in Cal APA 1, you're going to have to look at running a community of practice with a small group of 3 to 5 people. Okay. I would say you and 3 others is ideal. You need a minimum of 3 others. Okay. So be mindful of that. And if you're going to do it digitally, which some people do, all of them have to be in the video throughout the video. Okay. So you're going to have to use a gallery view and record, right? So just be mindful of that, because there's a whole part on the website about the technical requirements if you're going to do this by digital means. Okay. If you're going to do it live, you can record it live, no problem. But again, if you're going to do it through Zoom or Google Classroom or one of those other things, you have to be mindful that everybody has to be in the video. Okay. And they have to see their face and participation and everything. All right, so let's talk about step 1. Step 1 is the easiest. What they're really doing is they're asking you to investigate your current state of professional learning and collaboration. All right, this is evaluative in nature, just like they asked you to say, what is, in Cal APA 1, they asked you what your school's mission and vision was, and they wanted to know if you guys were fulfilling that, right? Here, they also want to know, like, what is it about your actual state of collaboration and professional learning at your site. Oops, sorry. Okay, so there's no real tricks to the first part. It's narrative. And if I was you, I would answer the question the best you can. Go to that guide and make sure it matches up, and you should be fine. Okay. There's no tricks, there's no videos, there's no postulates or theorems or formulas, right? There's no tricks to this. It's pretty straightforward, the first part. Okay. And basically they're going to ask you an area and you're going to, or what area you might want to focus on, and what in the educators that are in your team. This is included in here. I have not used this, but I have some people give me feedback that this document is helpful. It's just a quick document on high functioning teams and what high functioning teams might do. So if you're not used to leading a group, this might be helpful. Okay. It's not something that's mandatory, but it is a resource that's built into the slide deck for you. This is also one of the resources that they have, are the essential questions for the rubric. And again, I'm not going to go over these, but they're there for you. And again, these are some of the things that are similar to that other document I showed you, which just clarify the question. So if you don't understand the question well enough, this is your second place to be. Okay. I will say this. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Suffering is not mandatory. So if you're not really sure what it's asking, you look at the resources and you still can't get it, just drop me a line. Okay. It's really okay. I would rather you do that than spend more than 10 minutes looking up something and driving you crazy, or ripping out whatever, you know, your hair, and you're, you know, kicking your dog or whatever. Don't do that. The questions are right here. They're straightforward. So again, you'll see, like, the first one is, you're describing and analyzing the role of collaborative professional learning at your site, right? It's not rocket science here. And just make sure you answer the question very thoroughly. Also be aware of page limits, right? We talked about that before. I know that was a consideration on the other one. So make sure when you look at that Cal APA guide, it'll tell you the page limits. Okay. So nothing too groundbreaking there. If you look at this when you have more time in the slide deck, we've also provided for you some notes in these templates here, in these sample templates, so you can look through, that might help guide you. Okay. Also in here, I provided with you a checklist for each section. So here's what the checklist looks like for step 1, part 1, and kind of, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? Right. I don't know if people use this or not. I should ask for some feedback on that, but there usually hasn't been time. But it is helpful to have for some people. Here's the rubric again, and I always circle level 3, because level 3 really shows that is the passing margin. Really, it's the tipping point. Okay. And so again, did you analyze the role of current professional collaboration practices in there, and what student well-being? So that would be at minimum, that's what you would need to pass. Again, on part 2, it's a selecting an area of educational focus. So again, it's going to ask you to provide a list of people who are in your group. And when they say provide a list, talk a little bit about who they are, why you chose them, even though you probably didn't have a choice, right? They're probably doing the work anyhow. They're in your grade level team or anything else. But things like, just something simple, like Johnny has been a teacher at the school for 14 years and specializes in working with students with special needs and such and such and such, right? Give some background and don't say I chose them because they're my neighbor or because I like them, right? I chose them because they have some expertise or we work collaboratively, with the 3rd grade team this year or such and such, okay? And again, the relationship of positionality, again, you'll see these questions, they're pretty straightforward. Again, there's samples, checklist, and rubric for your viewing pleasure. All right, let's talk about part 2, which is having the meeting with your group. So you're going to have to hold 3 community of practice meetings with your team. Okay, and with that, you're going to have to meet with them, and you're going to collaboratively choose, based on data, right, or school focus, a problem of practice to improve student learning and or well-being. Let me be clear on that. Social emotional learning or attendance slash behavior can be used if you're on some kind of team or you have locus of control to collaborate around that. Okay. Anybody here thinking about that or has that? Or yeah, okay, good. Okay. Good. So you can do it, right? But again, make sure you have data that's going to back it up a little bit. And again, let's talk about your problem of practice. Right, you're going to facilitate your first group meeting in this point, and you're going to choose based on that problem of practice. You're going to choose right a strategy or evidence-based strategy that'll help address the problem. So you're going to address a problem. You're going to say, here's a problem we have based on data, right? Here's my problem statement. And now we need to, as a team, agree on that. Here's where it gets confusing. Let me be clear on this. You're not going to have time for your team to look at data on 20 different things. If I was you, I would do what I call administering and say, hey, look, our data says that our EL kids are failing across the board in English language arts. Right? And we're already doing this. Let's go ahead and move forward with it. Nobody's going to know if you already have the wheels in motion, if you've already started a program or whatever it is. Okay. We're not saying to reinvent the wheel. What this really is about is your ability to run a community of practice around it. I'm going to pause for a second here and see if there's any questions because I've gone over a decent chunk very quickly.
So my problem of practice needs to be, it can't just be language arts and we're focusing on being better writers. It has to actually be a subgroup, like helping the English language learners become better writers.
Not necessarily, right? If you're writing scores and you have some kind of data that shows that your writing scores are low.
Okay.
Okay, what is your sample group going to be for improving writing? Is it going to be third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, across the board, right?
So if it's third grade, when I saw sample group, I thought it meant I had to pick like English learners or special ed kids, but I can just pick a grade level.
You could, or you could pick a grade level. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you could. Keep in mind, you're going to run a community of practice. So if you're going to do it around third grade, hopefully you have third grade teachers in there, right?
Yes.
Because it makes no sense not to, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, yeah. So again, the reason I bring that up is that some people are subject specific, right? Like you might be a special education teacher. And if special education is one of your areas, you might say like one of our areas that is challenging is our special ed kids in math, right? So what is it we're going to use? Are we going to use a pull out method? Are we going to use co-plan, co-teach? Are we going to use, whatever it might be, whatever research based is fine, right? But what I'm saying is if you're secondary, it could be a discipline or it could be a general one, or if you're in primary grades, it could be a grade level team. Could be either or.
So Ross, quick question on this. So like I have a meeting on Monday that I'm pretty much facilitating with my AP and my counselor and my other EL teacher, and I'm an ELD coordinator. Could I use that meeting as part of this step?
You could.
Or is that putting the cart before the horse?
Well, here's what I'll say to you about that. Let's go through the rest of the slide deck, and if you can make it work and have those elements in it for the meeting, which we'll go over on part 3, then yes, you could. Right? I can't say yes for sure because I don't know, but let's go through the process and then you can tell me, right? How's that? Because if you can, there'd be no reason not to. Okay. My thing is, let's not reinvent the wheel. And I would say record it regardless, right? Just in case, but make sure that they're okay with being recorded, right? And all that. So, and we'll talk about that too.
Could you give an example of something related to social emotional learning that that you've come across?
Yeah, suspensions is one. Students being sent out of class with referrals is another. Those type things are usually up there. Behavior, sometimes SSTs, how many kids are sent for SSTs in a certain grade level, or those type things.
So not necessarily related to curriculum, like tier 1 supports.
Yeah, well, keep in mind your tier 1 in here is really not working. That's why it's a problem of practice, right? So
Unless
to,
it
to
doesn't-
me, it's tier 2 and 3 that you're really looking at, because tier 1 is first best across the board, right? And so if tier 1's not working, then we go to tier 2 and 3. So in my mind, if I'm looking at the MTSS framework type piece, then we're really looking at what's tier 2 and 3.
Okay, I guess
Right.
what I was thinking was, when I mean tier 1, meaning that the school has a high level of discipline issues and has not implemented a tier 1 social emotional curriculum.
Then that would be, yes, then that would be something you could do. Absolutely, in that example. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because that's what I'm working on right now.
Yep. Then I would say go with that.
Go with
That makes perfect sense. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Mhm. If you're talking about something specific like that, absolutely, right? Most people, like if you're talking a problem with math, well, you're doing some kind of tier 1 because that's instruction, right? I mean, your tier 1 might not be great and it might not be aligned, but but yes, in your case, I like that example. Thank you. Actually, that helps. So okay, we're gonna move on, but keep your questions, and hopefully we're good. I don't see any other last pressing ones before we go. Okay, everybody clear that you're gonna have to have a problem of practice. You're gonna have to talk about your current state of collaboration. You're gonna have to dial up the homies, right? Get your team in order. And then you guys are gonna, after you're gonna do that, you're gonna have to agree upon, here's our problem of practice, and here's a research-based way we're gonna try to combat that. And I would say this, you're probably not gonna have time to actually pick something. So I would do the research ahead of time and say, hey, we're gonna try this for 5 or 6 weeks. Okay. Because they're not gonna have time to do it. Excuse
Yeah.
me. So administer.
I just want to ask, because this is where I'm at, is on the step 2, and I already know my meeting, but I can fill out step 2 because I know what our meeting's going to be about, the next 3 meetings.
Yeah.
So I don't need to wait for them for the problem of practice, because they already know they're going to do what I say,
Right.
because we already, okay.
Yeah. What's in the video and what you write down is what they're grading you on, Kara. Right. So let me just say that, since this is being recorded, I'm just going to say that. What customer don't see, the customer probably doesn't know. But again, because it's unrealistic, the timeline they give you anyhow. Right. And so normally I wouldn't be that dismissive on it. And, I'm kind of by the book, right? Like I go by the rules here, but I'm saying the reality of the situation is in 4 or 5 weeks, this is usually a semester to 9-month type process, especially when we talk about managing complex change. Right. And we know that. So, yeah. All right. Again, here's the evidence table. You're going to have to hold a planning meeting, create an agenda. You are going to have to create agendas and minutes. So again, for those of you who said, hey, I got a meeting this week, that's great, but you better have an agenda and meeting minutes. And you can do those in one dynamic document together, but you need to make sure they're labeled as such, because you're going to have to upload those documents. Okay. You're going to have to jointly have an evidence-based strategy to address that you agree upon. And one of the things you're gonna have to show in your videos is coming to agreement. So we'll talk about that later on in a minute. And then you're gonna have to record minutes during the meeting, or have somebody in your group record minutes during the meeting, right? Because you're gonna have to turn those in, okay? And again, on this table here, it says evidence to be submitted. Here's exactly what you need to do, right? These are the things that have to be turned in.
Is there a oh, you're probably going to tell us. Never mind. I'm just
So
wondering.
that for 2, there is a template. The only template that's not here is there's no template for 3. Because 3 is the video.
There's a template for an agenda and meeting minutes.
No. There's not. No.
Okay.
So if you use one, great. I'm glad you brought that up, Tammy. If you guys already use one, use it. If you don't, just make sure you use one and it has all the, that it has the agenda, it has the action items, it has, it doesn't have to be great. What they really want they want to know is, are you being intentional about running your meeting, and does your meeting video match what's in the minutes and the agenda? Okay. Because remember, they're not going to see your whole video, your whole meeting. They're only going to see 3 5-minute clips of your meetings. So they're going to want to know what happened in the rest of it through those minutes / agendas. Okay. We good? Okay. It's hard for me to tell. I know you guys kind of look a little bit like holy moly, and some of you are like, oh crap, but you're good. Trust me. We'll get you through this. You know, I'm a coach by nature, so we're going to coach you through it and get you there. All right. So again, here's the essential questions, which I won't go over, but they're there for you. Here's your template. Again, determine your problem of practice. Describe your problem of practice, select group, referencing data, right? So you will have to look at a little bit of data on how you got there. That could be local data, benchmarks, so forth, right? So don't stress out over that. And then, you know, again, we're going back to your school's vision and mission again. How does it correspond, right? They're always going back to that. So again, the template is pretty straightforward. Again, you have this, which gives you some reflective questions. All right. And then also you have the other templates that I provided for you, as well as that document that has the guiding questions. There's your checklist again. There's your rubric in level 3. You can see where it's at with that. And again, I would read the rubrics. I think do your work and then go back, or read the rubric first and then go back. But I would strongly suggest you do that. And I would look at the samples. The videos that are there are quite good. And you'll see they're not ultra formal, where people, you know, they're actually like real humans in the video, right? Like, so it's not, they're not bad samples, and they'll show you'll kind of get a better idea from that. All right. So part 2, again, you're going to have to look at the strategy that you're going to use to address that. And again, hopefully you're already using the strategy, right? Hopefully you have something in place. You're using some kind of reading intervention. You're using PBIS. You're using attendance matters, whatever it might be, right? You're a member of ICANN, whatever it is. Again, it's template based. So there's that. There's the checklist. There's the rubric. And let's talk about ACT. Now, here's the deal with ACT. You'll find there is no template for part 3, because part 3 is video based. But I have provided a template for you. So let me do this. Apologize. Apparently, somebody needs to get a hold of me. That's I'm not going to do right now. So in this, oh boy, I got too many things open. I apologize. Okay. In the drive, what I've done is I provided this document here, and it's also under your templates. Okay. You don't turn this in. Let me say this. If you turn this in, you're going to get all of us in trouble. All right. Don't turn it in. All right. Rule number 1, don't turn it in. What I've done is I've provided you a template, because in your videos, okay, you're going to have to show you're going to have to turn in multiple videos. And in those videos, you're going to have to show that you have facilitated these things. Not all 5 in every one, but throughout them, you have to show that you've done that at least once. And you have to annotate that and what it means. Okay, so let's talk about developing shared norms. Let's say in the first video clip, from 1 minute to 1 minute or from 0 to 1 minute and 20 seconds, I'd put video clip 1. I'd put 0 to 1 minute, 20 seconds. Annotation title, developing shared norms, rationale. As customary, we always start our meeting with norms. We read them, check for understanding, and agree to them. Right? There's your deal. Documenting agreements and decisions. Remember, whenever we talk about something, if it's an action item, we're going to vote, right? Let's make sure that we use a thumbs up, thumbs down, or if somebody can't live with something, how are we going to break our decision rules, right? Those type things. Okay. Now, all of these are defined in the work, so I'm not going to go over them now. This is just an organizational tool, because throughout your 3 videos, you're going to at least have to have one of these in each. Okay, each one of these 5 have to be represented in at least one time. Could they be multiple times? Absolutely. Should you annotate them multiple times if they're in there? Absolutely. But here's the deal. You're going to have to turn in video clips, and they have to be unedited clips. Meaning it has to be a 5-minute clip, I think it is, of continuous video. So sure, you're going to have to edit it if you video the whole, the whole meeting. You're going to have to video the whole meeting, but you're not going to turn in the whole meeting video. You're going to turn in an unedited 5-minute clip from that video. I'm going to pause and make sure you guys are okay with that. You understand that? Well, you may not be okay with it. You don't have a choice, but that you understand that, right? Okay. So
So you mean video the entire meeting and then like throw it into iMovie and clip it down into that? And should there be like a clear like cutoff? Like it should make sense in those 3 to 5 minutes?
it has to. So that's here, and I'm glad you bring that up, Tammy, because here's the deal. At the end of the day, you better plan your agenda based on these items that have to be in there. So again, I would say it like your first meeting, I would do the beginning, because you could talk about developing norms, documenting agreements and decisions, and building consensus. You could bang those out at the beginning of a meeting in your agenda right away, right? How many of you guys have had the pleasure or displeasure of being in my class on my online chat? Has anybody? Okay. So if you have, what do I do right at the beginning? Same thing every time, right? I cut and paste it in there. No problem, right? That's what you should do at the beginning of your meeting. You could bang out those 3 in your first meeting alone, saying, okay, here's our norms, right? Because again, you don't have time to show them that you're developing norms, because developing norms can take a half hour, 40 minutes in a regular meeting sometimes, right? If we're going to debate it and hash it out. But you could say, remember our norms. Can somebody read them out loud? Is everybody agree? Is there anything we want to revisit? Right? No problem. Bing, bang, boom. Right? Keep in mind, such and such is going to be taking notes. And when we have an action item, we're going to be voting, and make sure that majority is going to take it, or we're going to do consensus so everybody can live with it, right? Whatever it is. So you'll get the definitions of these, but keep in mind, you have to be strategic in your meeting planning, because these have to be in those clips. Make sense? What they're really saying is, A, that you know how to look at data and use a problem of practice. B, you know how to use, excuse me, you know how to go and make sure that you have the ability to run a problem or a community of practice, right? As a principal, you're going to have to do that and do it all the time, right? And then C, you're going to have to look at how are you maintaining whatever it is you're doing in that research based to make progress, right? And so that's the crux of this. So again, this template is here for you as a resource. You can alter it, you can do whatever you want with it, but don't turn it in, okay? And don't, please, I ask this too, don't share it with people from other programs, okay? Because I don't want it coming back that, hey, Ross does this for this program, because I don't do it for, I teach in 3 or 4 different programs, and I use different things sometimes, or different programs based on who runs each, okay? So, but I've gotten a lot of people saying, thank you, this changed my life. So I know it's nothing, and it's nothing too difficult. You could actually use this, and then when you upload your video and and annotate, you could actually cut and paste from this into the annotation software. All right, because there is software built in on the portal that you upload your video in, where you will annotate there. Okay, and it's all done in the technical aspects. All right, so there's your template, sports fans. So here we go. So for step 2, you're gonna have, so actually you're gonna do your videos. Well, let me go back to this, I apologize. So you're gonna co-facilitate 3 implementation meetings, right? And let me, sorry, I'm not in slideshow mode. And then you're gonna basically, go through the pieces that you need to do. The evidence to be submitted is agendas for the implementation meetings. So 3 meetings you have to show. Minutes, you have to have your minutes and your collaborative work products. So that's the other piece we didn't talk about yet. If there's any work products you're going to have to turn in, you're going to have to show. So it could be data, right, from your group. If like there's beginning and ending data, or it could be writing sample, or it could be a report on suspensions being less or office referrals being down, or so forth. Okay. They'll give you specific examples of what those work products look like. And again, no more than 10 pages. It has to be a sample. I would also say this, I would use ID numbers and never use student or teacher names. If you need to print something out, take a Sharpie and do a little midnight run like they did in Watergate to cross some names out and stuff, and then go ahead and PDF it, go ahead and do that, right? But no identifying of student names, please, or teacher names, okay? So step 3, what you need to do, you need to video record all meetings, select and annotate 3 video clips that shows your approach to establishing and revisiting the norms, your ability. And so here's those 5 again, right? Here's those 5 things that you have to annotate. These must be annotated at least once in your 3 videos, and they can be done multiple times. Okay, I'm sorry I keep saying that, and I'm not trying to insult your intelligence, but I can't tell you enough how important it is. If you don't do this, they're going to give you an error and they may not grade the rest of your work. Okay, so please make sure you take the time to annotate. Please make sure you don't miss any of the 5, and please make sure that the software is, that you're using and everything works, because last year we did have a fair amount of technical errors and people had to resubmit. Okay, I'm not trying to scare you, but I want you to be sure about it. Okay. So you have to have 3 annotated video clips, no more than 5 minutes each. No more than 5 minutes each, continuous video. Okay. 5 minutes. Then they're serious about 5 minutes. Somebody put in like a 6-minute one last year, and they didn't grade the rest of it and just gave them a fail. Cold-blooded. Some would just stop watching at 5. Some will just fail. And that's the other piece I want you to know. You might get lucky if you have a technical error, and you might not. And it sucks. It's not equitable. I know that. But I'm just letting you know, if you go by the rules, it'll set you free. So again, here's your evidence to be submitted. Your agendas, attendance records, minutes, those could all be in one similar document. Remember, label it agenda/minutes if you're going to combine those. You may want to separate them out if you want. Okay. Key collaborative work products, no more than 10 pages. Could be lesson plans, student work products, instructional materials, assessment tools, data, or evidence collected. Could be a combination of all those. Okay. 3 annotated video clips, no more than 5 minutes. And that's what you turn in for section 3. Okay. You do need to do 3 separate meetings, or have people bring 3 sets of clothes. Okay. I said, if you didn't get that joke, I'm sorry. Some of you are laughing. So either A, it wasn't funny, or B, I said it too quick. My dog is laughing right here. She appreciates it. Okay. Something in the chat. What's the minimum time acceptable for the videos? That's a good question. I don't know anybody who has turned in anything less than 5 if you're going to try to get all of them in. So I would put a 5-minute video clip in there. You're annotating anyhow. They're not watching the whole video. They're going to, if you put in 1 minute to 1 minute 25 setting norms, guess what they're going to do? They're going to scroll right to 1 minute to 1 minute 25 and make sure it's in there and check the box. They're not there to watch your video. And I'm telling you this from firsthand knowledge, because I was a grader on 2 for 2 years. And I saw so many videos I wanted to throw up. Right. So, and I didn't look at anything more than what exactly was in the annotation. And if it didn't match, they didn't get credit. So make sure it matches. All right, there's the template that I put in here that I cheated and did for you. It's not really cheating. It's an organizational tool. You could have done this on your own very well easily too. right? But I just think it's easier than having to go back and figure it out. Might as well do it this way. Here's some co-facilitator roles, and I hate that word that they say co-facilitate, because the reality of it is they want you to facilitate it. Let's be honest. But here's some pieces in here again. Nothing groundbreaking, but it's there as a resource. This is kind of some information on how to develop some meeting agenda items and what that looks like, and a checklist. Again, here is the essential questions if you're so inclined to look. There's your checklist. There's your rubric as promised. Again, for the second part of this here with the videos, here's your checklist again. Did you do your videos? Did you collect your documents? And here are the areas again that you need to turn in or show in your annotations. You'll notice I put that everywhere, which means it's important, right? When I was a teacher, if I said it twice, that means you needed to know it. If I say it 5 times or 10 times today, that means it's important, okay? And again, here's this box. Each annotation title must be used at least once across the 3 video clips, okay? That's what they're looking for. Your cat, what's your cat's name? Does he understand? All right.
Her name's Maisie, and yeah, she's helping.
Okay. Maisie the Wonder Cat. I love it. Kids and pets are always welcome in our Zooms. So again, here's your checklist. It's fairly lengthy, but I'm not going to go over it. It's again straightforward. I added this slide, and there's things in colors, which means it must be important again. Each video must be unedited and continuous 5 minutes. All right, provide uninterrupted meeting facilitation. Do not edit, don't add music, don't add graphics, don't do anything crazy. Please stick to the script, okay? Film it in landscape mode if you can. There's nothing worse than trying to watch a video when there's huge black, bars on top and bottom. Flip that camera, please, or use an iPad or whatever, The assessor, again, will only watch the first 5 minutes of the video clip, but it gets worse than that because they could kick it back and say you didn't meet the requirements. So 5 minutes, please. Candidate and it should be members actively participate, must be visible throughout the recording. Got to be in the recording, please. Okay. Make sure of it. I've seen ones kick back because they did it in a non-landscape mode, and then wound up, they did it on Zoom and it didn't record right, and it was only the person speaking, and it got really weird. So this last one, it says get consent forms for all participants prior to filming. Your district may have a video consent form. I'm going to tell you this right now, you don't turn those in anywhere, and I don't know anything about that. So if you choose to use it, it's up to you. If you choose not to use it, that's fine, but understand your district may have a release form and they say, oh yeah, well, Chris is recording in their department meetings, right? So at minimum, make sure everybody is okay with being recorded and agrees to it. At maximum, if you think there might be a problem, then I would reach out to your usually most districts have some kind in their HR department, have some kind of release forms, or maybe you even have a risk manager, right? Or something like that, that might have a release form, okay? Questions on video part 3? I'm bad at wait time, so.
Can you explain more the annotation? I heard you say we'll actually annotate when we upload it. So it will give us like a section that we fill that portions in that you've given us a sample for.
Yeah, so you'll like, let's say it's establishing norms, right? So what you would do is you'd put what video, just like that template tenderly, you would put like video clip 1, you would put the timestamp from this time to that time, and then you'd annotate what it is you did to facilitate that norm, right? You would put something to the effect of like, and so there's software where you actually would take the information from that practice worksheet I gave you, and you could put it into the actual software. And so when they watch the video, it'd pop up.
Oh, so we're actually putting it on the video clip
Yeah.
itself, not actually when we upload it, we're not annotating it that way.
Right.
Okay.
You're going to annotate it in their software once you upload the video. Right. There's a software tool that they have that allow you to annotate each video.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Thank you. All right. Again, here's those things. You know, I love to put them in there. Here's a better description of the 5 areas. Okay. And make sure that you meet those.
I'm sorry, one more thing. Can you
Yes.
give us an example of what maintaining focus and energy would look like? Is that
Sure.
us just being like pep rally participants and like, hey, you guys are doing great? Or what does that look
Yeah.
like?
Yeah, it could be something like, you know what, I noticed that the energy is getting a little bit low. We're going to take a second, we're going to stand up and we're going to take a stretch break, or we're all going to do a check-in, right? Something that maintains the focus and energy, something that we're going to do a quick whip around to see how everybody's doing, make sure everybody's good, you know. So again, what you're really doing is kind of not only trying to keep their energy up, but also maintain focus and make sure that they're engaged in the meeting. Right. I think this would be almost kind of some kind of way to check for understanding, maybe do a quick whip around and you know, or even hey, let's do a fist to 5 to see where everybody's at with this right now, or anything else like that. Make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. And again, watch the sample videos and you'll see. Okay, you'll see what they do. Again, for each of the video clips, you'll provide annotations to explain your facilitation is recorded. These are almost akin to bullet points, so it's 2 to 3 sentences. Do not write whole paragraphs. They don't want to see that. They're not going to read it. Make sure 2 to 3 sentences explaining what you did in the meeting in that area. Okay. Pretty straightforward here. Again, there's the essential questions again. There's the annotated titles again. There's your checklist again. There's your rubric again. And 4 is reflect. There's no tricks to reflect. Reflect is answer the questions thoroughly. I've got to say, I don't know what it is about you guys this year, but you guys reflect better than any of the other years we've had. I don't know why. Usually by the time people get to step 4, they're tired of it and they just want to get done maybe. And so they just say, I'll do it. But you guys did a pretty good job. Again, make sure you answer the questions thoroughly. There's no tricks here. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. You really need to just reflect on your experience in running a community practice and what the experience looked like, and reflect on the learning that happened as a result of your leadership. This is kind of the so what. I always say this whenever I teach a class and we go over something, I always ask, what's the implications for your leadership? Right? That's exactly kind of what we're talking about here. Okay.
If we record our 3 videos, do it all, and then we get to reflect and realize that one of the 5 steps isn't that great, is that a way to like redeem yourself and be like, oh, when reflecting and watching the video, or should we go back and re-videotape one where it's a little better?
So my answer to that would be, if you can justify it and you can annotate it, you may not get a high score on the rubric, but the fact you did reflect on it would matter. So even though you wouldn't get points back on that rubric, it would still, you would probably get more points on your other piece saying that I realize that one of the areas I really struggle with is maintaining focus in the meeting, as sometimes we're very data heavy and people tend to sometimes not be compelled by data alone, right? Or whatever it might be. Yeah. So great question. I've yet to hear that one. But redemption works for one area, but they're not going to go back and change the score in the other area, if that makes sense, right? Because they're not grading this holistically, right? They're grading it in pieces and parts. Again, central questions. There's your template. It looks exactly like it smells. There's the essential questions. Again, there is your final rubric for that. And then the last part of this PowerPoint, which I'm not going to go over, is basically 45 to 50 slides on all the information you need to sign up, the technical aspect, how to use the software, and everything else. And in the immortal words of Forrest Gump, that's all I have to say about that. So I have about, and I'm sorry, because I do need to go in about 10, 15 minutes at the most, but I would like to at least take that time to take any questions that you might have. And there's no bad questions, so please feel free. The other piece is, I want you to understand this. You may have a question in 2 or 3 days from now, and you should email me or get a hold of me and say, Ross, I'm not sure about that. You might have gone over it. Even if I went over it, I'm not going to say, hey, I went over it and gave you a resource for it. I'm not going to be rhetorical. I'm going to say, let's talk about that. Okay. Or I'll first say, hey, take a look at such and such. And then if you still are having problems, let's talk. Okay. I can't say this enough, folks. Suffering is not mandatory. It's really not. Okay. I don't want you to get caught in that, in that kind of vortex, and then, you know, let it go because you're not feeling you're getting the support you need. Okay.
I have a question, Ross, and maybe nobody's done it this way, or maybe somebody has done it this way. In my current position, I have more at my disposal district instructional coaches, and I used to be an instructional coach. I'm not saying that I can't push into any department district-wide. I was an English teacher, and so I could, you know, get into the English department and work on the same meetings. But have you seen people do this from a district perspective with instructional coaches on a district-wide problem of practice and that kind of thing? Or is that just like, that's just way too much?
I have. The challenges you get is the focus is broad there, right? So you're going to have to really talk about locus of control. And then the other thing is, if you have a problem of practice and you're going to have a research-based way to combat that, how is that being implemented, right? Because if it's going to be implemented at one site, then great. But if it's implemented on 3 different sites, then we have to talk about fidelity and all that, right? So it just, you can, but it gets a little bit complex. What I would suggest, and this is only a suggestion, it's not a you must, right? But I would say that if you're able to focus on a single site and a team there, I would probably do that, just because it's more tight as far as the time frame, the focus, and the fidelity. So, but you could do it, you know, that way. But if you're talking about 3 different instructional coaches at 3 different sites, the variability in that could be pretty huge.
There aren't instructional coaches dedicated to one site. They work with me, and we rotate between the sites. So we do focus. I get what you're saying, though. We do focus on one side, but I get it.
I would really love to see your problem of practice statement. So throw it my way when you get it, when you get to that part, because that's where I can really give you some good feedback based on that statement. So, you know, either way you go, we'll take a look.
Right. That the way I'm thinking it that way would be more applicable to what I currently do, rather than going through an exercise of stuff that I don't currently do. But it's fine either way.
Right. Well, at the end of the day, though, if you can meet both, why not? Right. That's the goal. We want it to be productive, right, and useful. So yeah. But again, just when you get to that point, let me feel free to shoot your statement my way, and let's take a look. So, any other questions? I couldn't have done that wonderful of a job. Trust me. In a minute, I'm going to go in the other room, and my wife will bring me back down to earth.
All right. I can ask so many questions, but I won't. Because I'm going back, and everyone's going to get COVID and be kicked out. So I'm trying to get it done as fast as possible before my 3 people get sent home. The minutes, can I type up the agenda and it look exactly like the minutes, but the minutes then go more in depth? Because that's how we normally do it.
You bet. And I would just make sure in some big, bold, highlighted red agenda minutes.
Perfect. Yes. Okay. And then I'm definitely going to email you my problem of practice, because that's what I scored the lowest on in my last TPA. So, all right. Thank you.
You got it. Anything else? I want to say, first of all, how much that I appreciate all of you. I know that this program it's quick, right? We're putting you through a sausage grinder here. I know that that we do a lot of stuff in a short time period. I know that between online chats and Cal APA, which are the least attractive parts of the program, Dr. Rowe gives me to be in charge of. So it's like, I get that part's there, but I want you to understand that I do believe these skills will help you. I do believe that you're going to need to, as a leader, be able to run a community of practice around a data-based challenge. And so look at it in that respect of this is great practice for the real thing. And I just want to say thank you guys for what you're doing. I know it's hard out there. My wife is still in the classroom, and I feel like my job is talking administrators off the ledge every day. And so in the time we were here, I got 15 texts from different administrators across San Diego County because everybody's, what am I going to do? Got no subs. I'm working out of the nurse's office because I'm testing, right? I know how hard it is right now. And I just want you to know that you guys are doing the work, and I appreciate you. And I'm here to support. So use the resources that you have to do the best you can, and we'll get you there. So, all right.